Hello, and welcome to the Inside EVs podcast for January the 13th, 2023. This is episode number 145. Thanks for joining us. On today's show, we'll be talking about several different vehicles appearing at CES, including Fisker Ocean, Volvo EX90, and Polestar 3. And we'll also be talking about Tesla price cuts and a Hyundai Ioniq 5 that can do tank turns. I'm Dominic Yoni, Inside EV's forum moderator and Inside EV's editor. Joining us today is the impeccable Mr. Tom Moloughney, senior editor at Inside EVs and host of the YouTube channel State of Charge. We also have special guests Patrick Anderson and Liv Lee from the Mach-E Vlog YouTube channel. Liv is also a contributing writer to the website A Girl's Guide to Cars. And of course, Kyle Connor joins us from the majestic, practically palatial halls of Out of Spec Studios, where he produces high voltage videos for a growing number of YouTube channels. Welcome, everybody. And welcome back, Pat and Liv. So a lot has happened since you were last on the show. And I believe that you recently moved from Colorado to San Diego. So how's that working out?
It's good. We're excited. We've been here 1 month as of yesterday. We've already contacted multiple solar companies, and we're trying to get solar installed. So they've done the site survey, going through that process. And the other thing we're trying to do is we had to sell our gas-powered car. Great thing, because got rid of the other gas car. So now we're looking for a second EV here in California, which we've been struggling to find a Bolt.
Good luck with that.
So now we feel
oh God.
Yeah,
Kyle, do you want to get a Bolt?
I'm gonna
buy one, and you'll buy one, and the two of us will just go get bolts.
Tom, we'll just have bolts by lunchtime. Like it's not that hard.
If you wanted to buy like a $35,000 Bolt, I could get a $35,000. I turned down two Premieres this week, but just because they're out of my budget.
And sorry, guys, this has been a long running thing here on the with Dom and not getting a Bolt.
we just decided like a couple of weeks ago, and then of course being here, we're like, first of the year, let's go get one. But
right,
we're just struggling like with the dealer experience, and like it's frustrating when they're of course we want to like get a Bolt and like do a video about exactly the condition that it's in, and they're like, well, we have to put paint protection, and we have to put 3M guards, and we got to fill it with nitrogen. I'm like,
low jack.
And I'm like, we'll even pay for some of that stuff, but just don't do it. And they're like, no, it has to be on there.
It's so strange that like some dealerships are like that. That it's just
when I got my Lightning, they put on the window etching. The glass etching, and that was already on it, so I couldn't say nah, I don't. And then it's really not a terrible idea, but it was already on when I went to pick it up. But yeah, every vehicle we put that on before we even talked to the customer. So $500 or whatever it was.
Yeah, it's so frustrating.
Yeah. So Tom, last week we talked about the Topdon review you're doing, and it aired this past week. But did you talk about everything that we wanted to say about that?
Yeah, I don't think so. I just said that it was coming up, the review. So we'll do a quick overview. It's a 40 amp plug-in unit that you can convert to a hardwired. It's a kind of a newcomer. Topdon's been an established company. I think they're based in Hong Kong, either Hong Kong or China, and they make a lot of like automotive diagnostic tools. So this is kind of right up their alley. They make the computer things that you plug into your car, and it does diagnostic, and they even do lithium-ion chargers, like the backup battery chargers and things like that. So they put out a charger, and it was fairly priced, so I thought it would be worth checking out. And it's a decent unit, but it has a lot of shortcomings. It failed my automatic restart test, which is a big one, where I'll have the car, I'll have it charging a car, and then I'll turn the circuit breaker off to simulate a power outage. And then I turn the breaker back on, and within a couple of minutes, it should begin charging the vehicle again. And this didn't, and that's really rare. I only had one other unit ever do that. They all automatically restart to the point where I almost said, maybe I should stop doing this test because it just always works. But now it reminded me why I need to do this on every unit. So and it wasn't just the vehicle, because I'm worried, well, maybe just my Lightning for some reason isn't communicating with this well. So then I plugged in my my Rivian R1T. It did the same exact thing, wouldn't restart. Then I took my Ford Charge Station Pro, did the same thing with both vehicles right at the same time. They both started charging again. So I go, okay, it's the unit. And then just for fun, my friend pulled up, Pete, who's actually in the chat room right now, with his Tesla. And I said, while you're here, come over here, plug in, charging the car, shut the circuit breaker off, turn it back on. Again, nothing. Just a red light in the charge port, like some kind of fault. So it will not restart. And that's an important test because, it depends where you live. We get a lot of frequent power outages here. Even if it's just for like a minute overnight, like the power flickers, it's going to shut off. And now you wake up in the next morning and your vehicle's not charged because it didn't start charging again. Now, some cars can send you a notification, I guess, a text message or something. But if you're in a deep sleep, you're not going to wake up if your phone gives you a text, notification. So anyway, it failed that. It's. I like the bones of it, but the execution was poor. I think Topdon could do an improvement. The cable right here, I'm doing the cable deep freeze test. I don't know if you could fast forward like 30 seconds or so on this video dump to where I'm actually playing with it. And see, I freeze it down to negative 15 degrees Fahrenheit for 24 hours. Now, then I pull it out and I wrap it in a tight coil, but then I try to unwrap it. It took the crown. It is the worst deep cold weather cable I've ever tested. It was like a spring, like a coil. Watch when I unload it. I can't. I'm using like all my strength to get it to straighten out. That's how bad it was. I mean, this is like a lot of the cables. I'll say, it's not the best if it's really cold out and you're going to mount this thing outside. But you could manage it. This you can't manage. This would be if you came out of your house in the morning and it was plugged into your car, you would have to just unplug it and throw the thing on the ground. Like you wouldn't be able to walk it back to your thing and your connector holster and coil it back up because it was so stiff. It was like, I mean, I'm like bending it. It was nuts. So yeah. And look, as I bend it, it kind of like stays straight again. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was crazy. But yeah, so it's not a good cold weather cable. But if you live in San Diego or something, that really doesn't matter as much. But we do all these tests just for all different reasons. Did pass the drop test. I dropped it a bunch of times. Even I dropped it a few times off camera just for good measure.
Right.
And it's got a decent connector. I think it was an ITT connector. I forget which brand. But it's got good pieces is what I'm saying. And the unit is a nice compact unit. And it comes with an app, which didn't work. I tried for 3 days to pair the app. It wouldn't work. I finally got someone at Topdon I couldn't get customer support, never called me back. So then I emailed the company and they gave me a procedure to go through and it worked. I got it to pair, but then it wouldn't give me any data from the car. So then I just told them, guys, they wanted to send me a new one. I said, look, I've been working with this unit for 3 weeks now. This is it. I'm completing the review. I'll mention in the review that maybe I just got a bad one and the Wi-Fi, didn't connect. But in any event, it got pretty low score in my final score. But if they were to fix these problems and bring this back out, which I see a lot, I see some of these companies, particularly the Asian companies, rush to market and get a charger to market, and it's not fully baked. But then the next year, they send me another one and I look at it. Oh, okay, this connection's better. The plastic is thicker. The cable is better, and they have a different connector hole. So I'm like, okay, this is what they should have waited. But they just rush to market and they throw these things out on Amazon because they know if it's a low price, people will buy it. And a broken record alert here. Don't go to Amazon and buy the least expensive charger. Period. Don't do it. Get one that's good quality. And this appears online to be a good one because it has a 3-year warranty. It's safety certified. It's Energy Star rated. Those are the things that when companies do that and put them through Energy Star certification, UL certification, give you a 3-year warranty, that you say, okay, looks like they did their work on this. It's probably a quality unit. There's some you go out there, you'll say 90-day warranty. Don't touch that with a 20-foot pole. Even a 1-year warranty, don't buy. Because if the company's not willing to back the product with a decent warranty, it's probably junk. So, and I do point to the fact that it has a lot of good reviews on Amazon, but let's face it, we all know you can game Amazon. We all know that these companies pay people to give 5-star reviews on Amazon. So, take the Amazon ratings at, with a grain of salt. No one's paying me to give them a good review. So,
Right. So what is your final score is a 3.5 out of 5 stars?
yeah, 3.5 out of 5. And I'll tell you why. So sometimes, no, 3.95 is the final. My personal score was 3.5. I average it with the Charger Rater. The Charger Rater doesn't take into consideration things like that brake. It's just a point-based system that adds all the things up, and then it gives it a score. Then I give it my personal score and average the 2. So it is the lowest final rating I've ever given.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Right on. Well, thank you for all that. So you also this week put out a video on your State of Charge channel. We explained how long it takes to charge the Audi Q4 E-Tron. So you did a couple a charge session with this Audi Q4 E-Tron like maybe a couple months ago or something.
Yeah, this is one of those that got lost in the weeds. I made this video and I forgot I made it. I forgot that I'd never posted it is what happened. I did it in September, and September and October for a lot of the journalists that go on media drives and so forth. No, it's a crazy busy time of the year. The most media drives are between September and November. And I was just on the road constantly. And I made this video and I forgot I made it. Matter of fact, I think, wasn't I with you guys on the Audi Q4 e-Drive? Yeah, we hung out on the Q4. That was in September. So I made the video and I forgot about it. And the problem with that is now that I posted it, when in the video I'm talking about how the ID4 maxes out at 135 kilowatt, because during the media drive, Audi was comparing it to ID4 charging, and they gave us the ID4 5 to 80% was 38 minutes, and the Q4 e-Tron, they're like, it's got a little bit higher top DC fast charge. It's 38 minutes. So of course I incorporated all that into the video, but now the Chattanooga ID4 charges at 170, is it, or 190 kilowatts? So yeah, see, this is the information they gave us, and that's what I put up there. But unfortunately, it's a little dated right now. That's what happens when you wait 3 months to put out a video. But the bones of the video for the Q4 e-Tron are all true and correct. It's just the ID4, some of the versions can charge a little bit faster than what it can when I put in this video.
Right on. And so you also fleshed out the video too, talking about other aspects of charging the Q4, right?
Yeah. I started. I get a lot of comments on that when I do just the DC fast charging videos, and people say, Tom, at least explain a little bit about how the car charges other ways too. So I said, okay, from now on, when I do my DC fast charge recordings on a vehicle for the first time, before I get into that, I'm going to say, look, you can charge this level 1. It comes with a level 1 charging cord. It'll take this long. You can charge at level 2. At 40 amps, it'll take this long. At 48 amps, it'll take this long. So I go into that before I jump into this DC fast charge recording. And that's based on what people have been asking me on my videos. And I think it's a smart thing rather than just do DC fast charge. It only takes a few minutes to talk about level 1 and level 2, to talk about the onboard charger, how much power it can accept, and the standard equipment that comes with the vehicle. So that's what I started doing.
Right on. So
it did okay. It did 0 to 80% in 38 minutes. Now, it's not a big battery. Should it charge better? Yes. Does it charge like a regular e-Tron? No. But it's their entry level vehicle that starts at under 50 grand, and it's not terrible. It's not a great charging EV, but you can get up to 30% in about a half an hour. And, provided if you start at 0 like I did, which almost nobody's going to do, most people are going to plug in at 10% or so. Most people freak out when they get under 10%. 10 to 80 is going to be about 30 minutes. And that's not terrible for a road trip.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
It's not great, but it's, it's passable. It's barely passable. That's like my barely passable, thing, but you got to return X amount of miles in 30 minutes. And this just kind of like right on that threshold. Audi could have done better.
Hey, so putting this aside, so this week you also had you also conducted an interesting poll on Twitter. Let me just throw it up there. you asked what percentage of charging is done at home, and the results were pretty interesting. Were they kind of what you expected?
Yeah, it's what I expected. I figured, most, I think, industry polls, because a lot of these companies run these polls. Most of them say that somewhere around 80% of charging is done at home or work, or 85%, something like that. So
Right.
this is, I could have framed it a little bit better, this question. I just kind of threw it out there. And then when I went back, I was like, I should have maybe framed it a little bit better, talked about maybe home or at work, because that's like daily charging. If you could charge at work, it's almost kind of like you could charge at home, because that means you don't have to go out and find public charging for
Right.
your daily charging. If you can go and plug in at work, you have a place to daily charge. And
Yes.
that, which I kind of should have, but the poll was up and I said, I'll let it run. Maybe I'll wait a month and do a little revised version, and we'll see if the results are different. We got over 4,000 votes, I think, and it came in at like 83% of the people said that they can charge, that they charge at home more than 75% of the time.
Right. That's a lot. Is that what? Yeah.
It's what I expected, to be honest with
Okay.
you. Yeah, most people charge at home. That's
right.
gonna
Right.
that's gonna probably evolve now that electric vehicles adoption is spreading to, early adopters almost all lived in single family homes. So the early EV people almost all were able to charge at home, but now we're getting a lot of people saying, I want that Mach-E, but I live in an apartment. How do I deal with this? And so we're getting more. We're seeing that more and more now. So you're going to start seeing that diversity of where you charge. I mean, early on, 7-8 years ago, I saw polls that it was over 90% of the people that owned EVs charged at home. So,
Right.
but that's changing now as networks expand. A lot of people that have Teslas in particular realize they can buy one and not have charging at home.
Right.
So, the network's more reliable. It was more prevalent. We're getting more CCS infrastructure now. Whether it's reliable enough for you to buy a car on is another question. But the chargers are getting installed, at least. They're in the ground and people can see them.
Cool. Hey, so if you watched the podcast last week, you'll know that Kyle was planning on checking a number of cars at CES and putting together videos. And I spent the weekend watching them. It was great. And now I've watched most of these, but let's start with one I didn't watch. Kyle, you caught up with Arkady Sosnov, as the founder and CEO of Freewire, and talked to him. So first, maybe remind us real quick what Freewire does, and then tell us what you may have learned or what stood out from your talk with him.
Yeah, well, it's Freewire is a DC fast charging hardware manufacturer, but they put battery packs in their chargers. So they have a 160 kilowatt hour usable battery pack inside of their charger, and basically it's perfect for areas where it's hard to get power to your site. You guys know we're moving into a new building, and we want, of course, to have DC fast charging where we're going to be. And just the process of even thinking about getting, a 500 kVA service to our building is astronomically hard and long, and can take, 6, 12, 18, 24 months and hundreds of thousands of dollars just so we can then put in a charger.
Right.
And so it's pretty insane, sort of what we have to go through to make this happen. Freewire really allows you to plug into a, regular level 2 source, if you will. It's basically 20 kilowatt input. You can really go less than that too. You could plug this thing into a NEMA 1450 like that's behind Tom. I mean, and it will run. And all it is it's buffering a slow input charge for fast output charges. And they claim about a 10-to-1 ratio. So if they get about a 20 kilowatt in, they can do about 200 kilowatt hours per day without major issues. And I've made some videos with Freewire before. I actually thought this was the best video we did at CES. We made a lot of content. We hung out with Patrick and Liv. We really had a blast in Vegas. But I thought this was the most interesting to our audience because it exposed Arkady's passion for not just his charger, which he did a lot of the engineering work himself, the CEO, but also the business case for why you would want a battery buffer solution, because the charger is more expensive, right? You're buying the battery pack.
Right.
And a lot of CPOs just look at the bottom line. but this can help peak shave. So many things that it can do.
Demand charges, right?
Yeah, yep. So you can basically avoid all demand charges with this. And there are downsides, right? If you're in a high throughput area,
Right.
don't put a Freewire in. It's not built to handle, 50 cars a day. It's more for, okay, if you are here in the mountains of Colorado and you get a very occasional traffic. I mean, I saw some of the data, and pretty much every Freewire just sits full charged all the time. You see one charging session and then it goes back to full because they're installed in areas of relatively low throughput.
Pete Glass asked, and I don't know if you know this offhand, but how much of Freewire does BP own?
I don't know, no idea, but I do know
Okay.
that some BP stations, and I know there's also another huge fuel chain in Western Canada that's installing a bunch of these things.
Okay, right on. And how many kilowatt hours do you say they hold?
It's 160.
Wow. Okay.
And
I
then
missed that
you
number.
buffer that with your input. They'll have a version in the future that can do 50 kilowatt in. So, you'll have a bigger battery pack, 50 kilowatt in. You can actually string multiple chargers with DC buses in the future as well. So if there's a charger that's right at the front of the parking lot and they have another one at the back and everyone's using the front one, rather than letting that battery drain down, they'll take the power from the other charger and send it over to the first one.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, it's really awesome. They're going to have vehicle to load, or I should say charger to load, charger to grid, so that you can actually, for example, if you run a fueling station, which a lot of fueling stations are installing these because it's hard to run high power charging for a lot of them. They can actually power their entire site if power goes off in their town off of this thing for like a day or two.
That's great.
It'll be kind of cool. I really want that to actually happen because how cool would it be to have EV chargers power fueling stations?
Right. Hey, so is this something? Is this like a possibility for your place, your new space?
Yeah, we could put in a Freewire easily, no question. But it's not what we're thinking about doing at the moment. We need a little bit more high power application for testing.
Right. So what's kind of a price? Is this got to be a good, I don't know, $100,000 at least?
Oh, think triple more.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. It depends on how many you buy. I don't know the exact price, but probably just the battery portion's $100,000. So just a guess.
I guess, right. 160. Yeah.
No, we're talking big number, but that's not unlike, most 300 kilowatt chargers, 240 kilowatt chargers are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars before you even put them in the ground. So this is a lot more expensive, but you can, really reduce your operating cost once you have it in.
Right on.
And you're trying to make money, selling electricity at with a margin of 10 cents per kilowatt hour.
Yeah, no, this is
a lot of electricity.
DC fast charging. There's not much of a business case for it at all at the moment.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
Red Edwards asks, can you plug Freewire into the wall outlet? That would be like a 110. I think it'd be kind of slow.
I don't think you can. I think it needs a 240 volt service.
Right.
Or 208 in.
Right. That would make sense. Yeah. At a minimum. Right. So Kyle, you were the first, if not the first person to actually drive the Fisker Ocean, I believe, this weekend. So I think this was in a big chunk of fenced off parking lot, but you still made a number of observations and stuff. So I thought maybe you looked at a number of cars this weekend, like we said. So I thought maybe we could start with this one, and then give us maybe your thoughts on the styling, your thoughts on the interior space. Actually, probably more interesting, and then your driving impressions.
Yeah. So went to go drive the Fisker, and I think we're the only ones to ever drive a pretty much production version, or it's not really a prototype. This one's pretty much representative of a series production model, and that is a Nissan Leaf, not the Fisker Ocean. But there we go.
Here we go. We're getting there.
Yeah.
Why is there a Nissan Leaf in your Fisker video?
Well, it was for an ad integration that we did.
Right.
For a video game thing.
Yeah.
And the Ocean was really a cool experience. I wish I could drive it on the pavement. So like you can see we're just in this dirt parking lot, but better to have a small experience than no experience. So the interior, super cool. One thing that really came up in a lot of the comments on the video was this glass roof situation with the solar panels.
Right.
The audience really did not like all the shadows inside the car.
Really?
Yep, and it left some weird lights. And I totally agree. You know, there were so many things I was trying to absorb in real time that I was like, I would kind of just cover that because that was annoying. Or can I just take the solar panels off? Because it just left some weird shadows going on in the car.
Right. Or somehow maybe darken or see where the light strips come through and all that kind of blinds through. Maybe just cover that up somehow, you know?
Well, it's like I look out the roof of my Model S, for example, and you pretty much can't even see out. It's so tinted. So just put that tint on this with the solar.
Right.
That'd be cool. But I don't know. I thought that was a pretty much a downside. The interior didn't feel huge. You know, it felt like the dash was really high, but you could sit low in the car, which I like. There wasn't a ton of room. It's not like it's a big car. Interestingly, I thought the ID4 actually felt bigger on the inside than this. And that's just from my quick impression. You know, I have to get them back to back to really, sit in them. But, you know, what the Fisker it's really supposed to be a design exercise. That's the point of the company are designers. We all know that Magna does final assembly. They do for many vehicles, not just this, by the way. So everyone's like, oh, Magna and Fisker are doing their things, and we have a great relationship with Magna, but it doesn't, like, they do that for like a ton of cars, so it doesn't really impact our way of reviewing it, in my impression, at least. Because there was things I didn't like about the Fisker Ocean. I really don't like that they made the decision to keep it a primary axle on the front axle. You know, we're in the age where, this is sort of a sporty SUV, 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds. It's got the power, but it does not have the handling characteristics to match what they're trying to sell as speed. And I actually think they're taking advantage of most users don't know or care. And I'm not sure you should build a car around people's lack of awareness when it comes to driving dynamics. You should build a car that drives great. Like Model Y, for example, 90% of people will never rip a Model Y hard, but when you do, it's like, holy smokes, this thing's super well balanced and really fun and has much more power on the back than the front. And that's just the way a car should be. So I thought that was annoying. But then there were things that I really liked about it. First of all, that UI was not done, not even close to being done, but the screen rotating, super cool. It just, when you're driving. Sorry, Dom, go ahead.
Sorry, I just went, where is that screen rotating thing? That's
right there. Go to the right a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, keep
going. Oh yeah, here we go.
Yeah, somewhere around here.
Yeah. And, okay. Sorry.
It's I don't like that they took like all the nerdy energy details out of it. They're like, we put this graph on there, so it's like definitely for beginners, the car, which is okay, I guess.
Sure.
And I was a little bit unimpressed with how far along the software was. It looked really clunky. You can see warning lights all over this one. And they're like, oh, but there's a new version that we could put on. I'm like, this is the car you brought to CES, the world's largest tech show. Make sure it has the new version. Like, what are we doing here? There was so many things like this across the whole show that people just didn't have their displays ready. And I'm like, this is not something you mess around with. So we put everything on camera, of course. And, rear heated seats. The Fisker Ocean is a great car. I'm not sure the performance version is worth the money at 70 grand. I think if you can get the entry level one, that front wheel drive, if you can still get the big wheels, then you have a really stylish, quite premium car. I actually really loved the seats. They're blue, which was cool. I think you can only get the blue seats in the nice one. But overall, you get this really stylish car, and for what, 30 something $1,000, 40 grand. Won't get the tax credit because it's built in Austria. There's the screen doing its thing. And then you'll see the software just sit there for a minute. There we go. Come on, this is CES. So I don't know. I really got the impression that at least the guys that I talked to at Fisker were really focused on the conceptualizing the ideas, but they weren't actually the people engineering the stuff, which is, I always like to talk directly to the engineers. Really nice guys though. And it was a good first experience, but a lot more to be had. We don't know how it charges. We don't know the efficiency. What we do know is, it's a great looking SUV, and they claim a pretty good entry price.
Right. So Hey, Liv and Patrick, did you guys drive the Fisker Ocean?
No. The only one that we really got to drive there was the VinFast, which I know is coming.
Right. Yeah, we'll talk about that coming up. Yeah, for sure. Did you see it in person though?
We've seen it previously. We didn't actually
Okay.
see it at CES. I don't think they were officially at CES. Maybe Kyle may have some special access. And we found that there's a few companies that aren't officially at CES, but they sort of shadow the conference.
Right. Right. So, Kyle, was this part of? I don't know. How did you
I
find
have
them?
no idea. I just walked out to a parking lot, and
Right.
I
Right.
know some of the Fisker people, and they're like, and Hendrik's like, yeah, just go drive it, and I'm like, great, I'm filming it.
Oh,
So,
Henrik was there too. Yeah, I guess
yeah,
you chat with him.
yeah.
Yeah, I've
And
seen
so
companies do that. Like just what Liv and Patrick talked about, Dom, is that they don't pay to be at CES. Like
Right.
ahead of time, they like rent a parking lot, and
Right.
so they just bring their stuff and set it up out there, and they're like, "Oh yeah, come look at us, we're over here," But they're not in like the book, and they're not, CES doesn't talk about them because they didn't want to pay those fees.
Right. Just offhand, Kyle, you said you don't think the performance version is worth it. How quick is the non-performance version?
I don't know numbers wise, but I drove this in front wheel drive. It has a rear disconnect axle. So I
Right.
imagine this in eco mode, whatever they call it, Earth, would be the same as the normal car because it's just the rear axle disconnected and you're left with your primary axle.
Right.
And it felt pretty good to me. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
properly
very
quick.
like it just spun the tires to the moon.
Right. Right.
There's still some work to do. Really loved how quiet the motors were. Really liked the suspension tuning. Yeah. I just need to drive it a little bit more. I drove it for 2 minutes in a dirt parking lot, and I put all my impressions in that video. So if you're really curious, just watch that video, and you'll see everything in there.
Yeah, definitely watch the video. It's a good one. So you also, oops, I was trying to pull up some more stuff here for you. Okay. And
Yeah,
so you also,
while Dom pulls that up, 4 years ago at CES, Lightyear did that, and I was there, and they weren't at the show, but then somebody inside was like, you can drive or check out the Lightyear solar car. It's just you got to go down past that restaurant, turn left, and I'm walking through the Vegas streets, and it was all of a sudden like no people are around, and I'm like, was this a setup? I'm gonna get mugged. But then like I cut through like a strip club parking lot, and in the back, the Lightyear was just sitting there in the middle of nowhere, and it was like blocks away. Like Kyle, this parking lot wasn't even paved. It's like these companies, these fringe companies that can't really afford to be at CES, they take what they could get, and it can be blocks away from the main show.
right.
By the way, Lightyear was there this year, and I have
Yes.
to say they had like the Lightyear 2, but it wasn't like ready. Are we going to go into that?
We'll talk about that. Yeah.
Okay.
I got you, Keto. I got you, man.
Okay.
I got you covered. If I could just get this. So we're missing Martin this week because he got called up to do some other podcast things for the company. So I'm twiddling the knobs and things, trying to get things set up. So things aren't quite as smooth this week as they usually are. So my apologies with that. So Kyle, you also had the chance to go through the Volvo EX90 that just debuted in November and talk to the designer. So can you tell us about the EX90 and did it live up to your expectations in person?
Yes. Wow. Even better in person. Love this thing. And
You're pretty enthusiastic in this video, man. Holy crap.
because I love Volvos and sorry, they're just awesome. And design wise, it's great. Specs wise, look, we have to drive it, but feels premium. Finally, we get good electric Volvos. We've only had the XC40, which is their entry level product here. And
Right.
so now we're like, great, we can get all the good stuff from XC90, which I love the XC90, and it could be now electric in the EX90. So you get the big sound system, you get the good wool seats, you get all the driver assistance that you could ask for. How it's all going to work and mesh together when we drive it, I don't know yet. But I do know that our audience was really interested in this car. A lot of people commented that they have them on reservation. And I think it's the most thorough tour yet of the EX90.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it's got the cool windshield wiper wiper fluid thing, but it's got like the built-in funnel. That was kind of nice.
Such a
Nice.
genius idea. We've been building cars for 100-something years, and we're just coming up with that funnel.
Right. And it's funny because you did the Polestar, and we'll get to that in a second, but it doesn't really have the same thing.
No.
It's like, what?
Yeah, what the heck? Every car needs the funnel.
Yeah, I'm all about the funnel. Yeah, so it lived up to your expectations. A lot of I'm trying to find like the cool light situation.
Oh yeah, well yeah. So the lights open up, and then the headlights are behind there. But yeah, lived up to all my expectations. I didn't get to sit in the second or third row. It's spacious, but these were like really early cars, and so yeah, little still buggy things with them. But overall, I mean, we know Volvo is going to put this thing on sale not this year, I think next year. So we're still a little bit of ways away from it. But I thought it was video because I think it's pretty production representative from a design and space standpoint. They probably still have to work out some of their tech and tuning and how they're going to optimize the software. But overall, pretty close to being done, actually. And nice work to the Volvo team. And
lots of space in the back there with the third row down for dogs or whatever.
Yep, huge space in the rear air vents. Honestly, the electric premium SUV segment is so saturated with just heavy hitting, awesome products. iX is incredible. Tesla Model X is so cool. Audi e-tron, Q8 e-tron, probably arguably the worst one on paper, maybe the nicest one to drive. EX90, R1S. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Right.
How are you supposed to choose which one? I don't even know which one I would choose. I'm like, I want all of these.
Model X Plaid.
Yeah, Model X Plaid rocks, dude. But you also give up some things going with Tesla over some others, but then you also gain the ability to actually go on a trip comfortably, which might be your only choice if you want to road trip and have a smooth experience, especially as EV adoption picks up and we're not seeing an increase in charging infrastructure.
Right. So you also got to drive the Polestar 3, which is built on the same platform as the EQS or EQS,
they're
as
built
the
on
Volvo EX90.
Yep.
Spa 2, right? I'm glad I didn't write that down. Oh, in my head, for some reason, I was thinking CMA, but that's the
baby one.
That's the baby. There's the Polestar 2 is on that, right?
Yep.
Right. So are we sharing that? No, we're not. Okay. Trying to catch up with what I'm saying.
But I'll give you the quick hit because we're already 30 minutes into this thing. Polestar 3, super cool 5-seater version of the EX90, a little bit spicier. You have performance EX90 drivetrain as the base Polestar 3 drivetrain. You can then option this all the way up to the Polestar 3 with performance pack. That's what you're looking at here. Big brakes, different suspension tuning, torque vectoring rear diff. One of the best interiors of any car I've ever been in. Just an amazing, interior combination, especially from a color, trim, material standpoint. A little bit disappointing. They're still using real leather in the Polestar 3,
really?
Which I thought was like, okay.
I think, really?
It's
everywhere,
like
just
the seats themselves say like, sustainably sourced leather. And like, maybe it is, I don't know, but I just, forget the environmental impacts. I don't like leather in cars because they wear really quickly. And, a lot of these new materials are proving to hold up much better over time. And you can see this show car already has ripples in the seats. You can see it's got, discoloration on the side bolsters from everyone getting in and out of it. And so I was a little bit like, I'd still get this interior because it looks incredible, but I just wish it was made out of a different material. You can see it's cracking and like, it just doesn't look good. So that's a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, that's not really acceptable I mean, I guess Polestar is a newish brand, but still, even they have lots of experience with this kind of thing through the Volvo, history, and they know that's not really acceptable. Dye transfer and wrinkles in your show car.
It's animal welfare Napa leather.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and okay, so I actually
treat them well before we kill them.
Right, sure. But I did a deep dive on this recently. We have a whole hour-long video on interiors and seating.
Right.
And we talked a lot about like where the leather's coming from. And the leather's not coming. We're not killing cows to put them in the cars. They're going for different reasons, but I still, just prefer a non-leather interior myself. I like an animal-free interior. I just don't know why anyone decided that that's the material we should be sitting on.
Right. That is a good point. It is kind of weird.
There's so many new great materials that look better, feel better, and hold up better over time.
Right. All right. So now let's talk about something else. Both you and Patrick and Liv all drove the VinFast VF8, and we'll ask them about their experience shortly. But and I also drove this a year ago when it was still under development, and back then it was not great, not ready for prime, not even ready to be tested really. So I watched Kyle's video, and it's certainly much better than it was last year. But Kyle, you still found it had some shortcomings. So in your video, you go through the vehicle inside out. You get a drive along. You get a test drive. So give it to us straight, Kyle. Like how much did you hate it?
We're at what, January 7th when I made that video, somewhere around there, and we've already reached the worst new car of 2023. Takes effort.
Right. That's so you weren't super impressed.
No, how could you be? The thing's 62 grand, the one we drove.
Right.
It's got 179 mile EPA range. They're like, oh, but Kyle, the new update, we're going to rerun the test. It's going to give it another 20 miles. Like, get the heck out of here. Thing's got an 87 kilowatt hour battery pack.
That's so weird. That number is, let's talk about that for a second. That number, what's up with that? That's because you turned it on. It was like 99% full or something, and it showed 238 miles, I think, of range.
Right, which seems reasonable.
That sounds like the actual range you're going to get, not 100.
I think that they just totally messed up the car to optimize it for the EPA testing. So like maybe it'll be like a Taycan situation where it'll do 100 miles more than what claimed. I don't really care about the range. You know me, like that's dumb. But like just you can engineer around the EPA test to get a good number. Obviously, they didn't even think about that till the cars were almost to start of production, or at least here in the US. So I thought that was disappointing. They claimed 400 horsepower.
Right.
There's no chance in hell that thing has 400 horsepower. Right. I mean, an ID4 all-wheel drive will wipe the floor of this thing. So that really annoyed me more than anything, because I'm like, look, we put in the video, like we got it up to about 100 miles an hour, wide open throttle with David driving. And I'm like, dude, like that's not fast.
Right. And you drive a Model S Plaid. So I've driven it with
I also have driven cars with the same claimed output. I've spent a lot of time in Polestar 2. I've spent a lot of time in XC40 Recharge, which are claimed to have 400 horsepower, 300 kilowatt output, same as this. And those rip. They get out of they freaking spin the tires. They're awesome. They're fast. This was not. So like let's ignore the fact that they're lying to you about the performance figures. Then you get into ride handling, noise, and as soon as we get on the road, we're in a series production model. We were one of the US ones. Right. It just started creaking and rattling as soon as we got out on the road. And, it's all in the video. I didn't hold back in the video. You guys know me. I just share my experience.
The guy sitting right there beside you. He's driving. He's like, just doing his job. He's just driving the car.
He's a rep. He works for a lot. He's not necessarily, David wasn't like a VinFast guy. He was just our driver. And, I was like, let's try things. Every time he turned the steering wheel, it would creak and rattle up front. The whole back of the car was rattling on the highway. It was definitely loud, way louder than any other series production car I've been in. And like, maybe we got a bad one, right? So then the next day we got into a different one.
Okay.
And we heard a lot of the same noises, same power, weird thing. It wouldn't give us the juice. But like, that's the bad, right? The materials weren't great in the car. Right. For 60, if it was, again, I'm evaluating it in the context that this is $20,000 more than an ID4. It's $10,000 more than an Ioniq 5 or EV6, and it's way more than a Fisker Ocean. And a Mustang Mach-E, it's 20 grand more roughly. So why would you ever go here? Then you're buying a car that has no service network in place. They're going to have third-party services here. Like that does not exist in America. There's some European automakers, like the Chinese folks that come over. I'm thinking of what we drove one. They're a little SUV. What was it?
Xpeng?
No. It's like a little one. The small Chinese automakers that go to Europe, they use like their their version of Midas to service the cars. So I don't think VinFast told us who they're going to have done, but it's certainly not going to be them working on it. And what's really interesting is since I posted this video, so many people from Vietnam who own VinFast have actually chimed in.
Okay.
And they've either chimed in with like they're going to try and put you in jail, but I'm like, this is America. And they've also tried, because in Vietnam, I guess you can't talk bad about this thing. And then they've also said that a lot of them are VinFast owners. If you read down, they breakdown. No one said anything. I haven't seen one good comment from one VinFast owner that's enjoyed their car.
Okay.
So look, there's doing a lot of things right. That's the negative.
Right.
What's good? The good is they have over-the-air software update capable. They have software that definitely needs the over-the-air software updates. They have
as you can see, looking at this UI, it's kind of clunky.
God, it's so ugly.
Kyle's telling us the positives now.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, there are some positives. Yeah, like
it's a
route
car.
planning.
It definitely drives. It has route planning. It overall, I thought like had pretty good suspension actually. Felt nice from the passenger seat on the road. Like I was like, okay, but that's actually not hard to do when you put a giant battery in the bottom of your car. That just naturally enhances its ability to handle well. And I think they look great. I think the styling, the door thunk, like the VF9, their big SUV, awesome looking vehicle. And so look, I think there's a lot of work to do. I just wonder if it's going to be like a chart, like Tom's Charger situation. They are obviously rushing to market. That's the thing. VinFast, it's in the name. They do everything fast. That doesn't mean they do everything well. I wonder if they're going to say, that's the first batch. Wow, we really screwed up. Sorry to the first owners who supported us, our pioneers or whatever they are. And then they'll actually engineer a good car next. I don't know.
Right. It looks like they have a lot of learning to do yet. Like so this is like pretty much a brand new company. And the CEO doesn't have a huge automotive background,
Well, and they just obviously don't understand our market. They don't understand how to work with the media properly.
There's a whole lot of things,
Yeah, they really don't understand how we want to buy our cars. No one there knew how much this car was going to cost. Right. I went in thinking we're doing this $40,000 situation with a battery subscription, right? This is we have series production cars in the US. They're required to have a price on them. And so then they're like, oh, we're actually not doing a battery subscription because no bank would finance it. That's what they told me. And I'm like, I know, I told you that a year ago when I met with you guys. That doesn't work for our market.
Right. I think we told them similar things too. Like everybody else, like they're very frank with this, like asking for criticism and suggestions. And we told them, the subscription is not going to fly in America,
Well, they haven't, I don't think publicly said anything about it, but it's not happening based off of everyone I spoke to there.
Right.
But then some people were like, oh, the car's 50 grand. Then people were like, oh, it's 55 starting. And then the one we were in, the guy was like, oh, we're in 58. But then Drew was in an identical car next to us and they told him it was 62. So we have no idea how much this thing costs, except it's way too expensive.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know if they're going to have to take a huge bath on this first bunch of vehicles and get the quality. They need to go through your video and I don't know.
I really think I just want to buy one actually.
Yeah.
And really go deep into how many little things they're just skipping.
Right.
Because it's an insane number that we could never even comment on a podcast. And when you park it next to a German automaker who spent 7 years designing MEB, even though that's not that great of a package anymore, that's old tech. Really, the pinnacle of tech right now is Ioniq 5 EV6. That's that's what we really should be comparing this to. It's so far behind. I mean, 31 minutes, 10 to 70% is terrible.
Not quite there. Yeah.
You're going to launch a product. What are you doing better than someone else? Well, you cost more and you have terrible NVH and you have terrible materials in the car. And it looks nice. Okay. And then you're driving a Vietnamese car around. People don't work really hard, buy a $60,000 car just to say they drive a crap box.
Sure. And it's like I say, it's a new company and man, they're going to make a lot of missteps. They're going to make a lot more. And I don't even know what they're going to do. They're going to lose a lot of money for a while, for sure. And see if they have
you would going fast with any automaker.
Right. But this was not even a new company. It's from a country that doesn't have a lot of automotive experience. The people they have hired a lot of people, from companies with lots of experience and stuff. But just getting all the gel and getting all the communications, I think they're going to need to make some big changes. I think if they're going to make this fly, because they don't want to. Who wants to lose billions of dollars?
here's the thing that really annoyed me. We're on this test drive loop, right? They're only letting you drive it up to about 20 miles an hour, and then you got to hit the brakes, and then you're just like maneuvering. It's like you're stuck in a parking lot traffic, which no one likes driving through parking lots, by the way. So we're like driving in this parking lot, and then they're like, "Oh, why don't you stop and get a cookie here?" I'm like, no, I don't want to. I want to hear all about how the car's engineered and what's going on with the motors. And this is a tech show. This isn't like have random people come and drive your VinFast. Like, this is industry show. They really don't get it. I'm sorry.
Right?
No,
this is crazy.
Well, we're going to move on, but we're going to move on just to live and Patrick talking about the same thing, because they also drove the VinFast VF8 on the little track I believe they had. And so you've heard Kyle, it's pretty harsh. So your perspective might be a little different. What did you think about the VinFast VF8?
Well, we echo a lot of Kyle's comments. Like, people didn't know a lot of details. One of the things that we were struggling is, like, I wanted to, find out, is that car a production car, or is it still a pre-production? They didn't know. They didn't know the exact specs, and we're getting in the car. You don't know battery size, like basic stuff that you should know. And that little course, as Kyle mentioned, it was tiny.
Right.
So the only thing you could really test, you couldn't even really test the acceleration. I mean, it's like we got up to like 20, 22 miles an hour and then slammed on the brakes. Brakes work. That's a good thing.
Right. And at low speed, you can't hear all the wind noise or the creaks and the noise so much.
Yeah.
Right?
They did have like a little rumble thing as you're going around a corner to sort of show off the suspension, but you're going so slow, it wasn't that big of a deal. I did note, like, the steering was super, super light feeling.
Okay.
Almost like disturbingly so, but I mean, maneuvering around in a parking lot, it was great for that because it made it easy. But yeah, the same type of things. We didn't do too much with the software except tried the voice commands and could not get it to understand anything.
Yeah.
Can I say something about the voice commands really quick?
Yeah.
Sorry. You can't turn them off. There's no way to disable voice commands.
Ooh.
That could be software updated, but it was driving all the drivers nuts that we talked to.
Was it in English?
It's in English, and you can basically do Alexa or the built-in one. Sorry if I just made everyone's speaker go. I didn't realize. Yeah, you can't shut it off. It's crazy.
And we actually tried the voice commands in the one at VinFast, but another company, What 3 Words, is integrated into VinFast. So we went to their booth and got to try it there, and we ran into the same thing.
I mean, to be fair, everyone trying it had accents, but I do think that the software should be capable of that. So
sure,
that's probably a generic issue.
But yeah, I love the styling. We were sort of interested in.
I don't personally, actually.
The VF6.
I like the 6 and the 5. Yeah.
It's VF8. It's not my. You guys like the styling. I'm not a big fan of the VF8 myself. I like the other ones more. This one's kind of. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's still concerning because I think the VF6, they had the WLTP estimated range at 248, which then you're like, ooh, for we need to see the pricing on this. But we also had the same issues of, like, nobody knew the pricing, and then it's like, well, the leasing I think has gone away, but yeah.
I do wonder, as you guys are saying, because while we basically did a booth tour, and at one point someone came up to us and asked us opinions on the 4 e-bikes that they had there, and they were very adamant that they're going to take our input and change things and pick what they're going to work on. So yeah, maybe this is like, let's see what happens. Do people like this? Who breaks down?
Yeah, it was actually funny because we were literally filming, and they're like, "Hi, can I ask you some questions?" And I was like, "We're busy here."
Here's the bicycles. These are new. Actually, I like that e-bike too.
We were like, because they were like, sure, because we actually need more information. Like, do you have pricing? When are they coming to the US? And it's like, actually, they're all prototypes.
Right. We
may bring none, or we may bring all, or they may be completely different bikes. What color do you like?
Yeah. What did they have their scooters there? They make scooters as well.
No scooters, just these 4 or 5 models, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we were sort of excited by the e-bikes because we're our new house. We have like a great bike trail and whatnot. But
nice.
Yeah, it was sort of like, okay, well, I mean, I thought it was great that they were trying to get input versus let's just throw a bike out there and people will buy it.
Right. Right. Sure. Um, we'll see how they execute on that sales strategy, though. So, so pulling up the screen now, I'm showing you at their booth. They had the VF 6 and 7 there on display as well. So they're going to have, these ones aren't coming out until, I'm not sure when they're coming out, next year, maybe sometime. It's still sometime in the future anyway. So hopefully they can work out some of these hardware issues and different things. But this is the styling of these ones looks pretty great. And this is like going to be more affordable. Oh, yeah.
And they did bring up the fact multiple times, because we're here in San Diego, that they have stores actually open. And we saw one, but it was closed when we went by. But I think we're going to do a video or at least visit, because I want to see, like, how are they selling these?
Yeah, what is our experience like?
Yeah, because sometimes you go to these shows and you're like, okay, I understand, like, this is, like the Ram truck. You're like, okay, you don't have all the information because it's a ways away. But how do you open a store and multiple stores and not have all the answers?
Right. Yeah. And I believe they're all in California now too. So you should be able to find one relatively close, right?
Yep.
So while this was there at the CES, they also released at CES they released the some of the specs and figures for the VF 6 and 7, which is all kind of new. And if I can pull that up real quick, bear with me, guys. Talk amongst yourselves. All right, and scroll down here to this. This is the important part, I guess. So you can see all. Yes. And so we have the post up on Inside EVs too, with all these numbers from the show, and they tell a bit of an interesting story. The two models come in either Eco or Plus trims. VF6 is front wheel drive like the Eco. The VF6 Plus is front wheel drive like the Eco. So each one comes in a Eco and Plus version, and the VF7, the bigger one, gets all-wheel drive in the Plus version, bigger wheels, and even like a bigger infotainment screen or something. Liv, do you think they might have missed a trick starting out with the VF8? Because these look arguably better, and it doesn't seem like the strategy of starting with their top-end stuff is going to play out really well. Like everything is priced too high, for what we're getting compared to the competition. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I missed what you said in the first part, so no.
So they started with the VF6, 7.
Oh no, because I think like you and I are probably the outliers in liking the smaller ones, and people want this more bang for their buck, bigger, I guess.
Right.
No, I think it plays with the market. I mean, I personally want the 5 and 6 aesthetically.
Right. I think the 6 and 7, the 5, they do make a VF5, but that's only in Vietnam. I just saw it on their website, and actually in Vietnam, it's kind of interesting. They sell it. It's works at about $20,000 or $22,000 is over there, and like the US equivalent of what they're charging for that small car, which is kind of like the price point I think they should have started with here.
That's what they need to charge for their VF8.
Yeah. I mean,
yes,
but definitely, yeah. I mean, they're going to take a bath regardless, so they should put it in what its actual value, what its actual value is. So that's closer to 30 than 60. But in the long run, I don't know exactly what they have to do to get this figured out, but we can move on from that. From VinFast, we've talked about them enough, I think. I don't know. You also got to check out the solar, the Lightyear Zero that was on display there at the stand at CES.
Yeah, I mean, they had the Lightyear Zero, and they announced the wait list is opening up for the Lightyear 2. And that's what I was going to talk about earlier, is like they did one of the coolest, like, we have the car, but we're not ready to reveal it. And rather than just put like a sheet over it, they put it in a room, and they had like peepholes basically all the way down, so you could sort of peek through and see just parts of the car. I thought,
really?
Yeah, to me, it was like,
found it frustrating.
Yeah, it's frustrating, but it was like sort of the coolest way of taking a sneak peek at a vehicle that they don't want you to see quite yet. And this is Jasper that we talked to. He's one of their engineers, but he hadn't even seen the Lightyear 2 until they rolled it in and put it in the room. So,
Right.
but yeah,
So
it's
it's a design concept then.
yeah, basically. But the Lightyear 2 is the one that they're targeting for under 40,000.
Right.
You know, no specs or anything like that yet. The Lightyear Zero seems just really cool for what it is. It's like you know, solar panels on the roof, on the hood, on the rear. You can't see out the rear. It's just they have a camera back there, so you have a
Okay,
screen.
it's opaque.
Right. But they are, you know, talking about over 600 miles of range. Most aero production car at 0.175 CD. And what else?
And the solar could gain like 49 miles a day.
Yeah.
I do personally think that would be really disconcerting, not be able to see you back or relying on digital. That would make
Yeah.
it comfortable.
I think it's something you might get used to. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been in some cars that have that. And you know, it's you sort of have to get used to it.
Right.
It's not horrible. I still prefer a mirror, and it's because of changing focal lengths and science. But you know, and some people compare this because Aptera is sort of trying to do a little bit of the same thing, but it's in a vastly different package, 3-wheel, odd design. I think this might be more acceptable for people that want. Because like we love the Aptera.
I have a reservation.
Okay.
Like
It's right down by there by you guys too, right?
Mhm.
Oh,
like
Aptera
5 miles
videos
away.
coming up.
Yeah. But yeah, like I can't imagine parallel parking like an Aptera in like downtown LA, but like this, like I don't think it would attract too much attention.
Okay.
Okay, but they don't even have one production car yet, and they're already announcing their second one.
Well,
Yeah.
no, they've entered production now, I believe. But
But have they
Lightyear's,
sold any? Do people own them?
No.
I don't know if
No.
they've delivered yet, but they're building them basically. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. We made a video with one, and I didn't drive it, but based off what I saw, it was really like very early days, and the solar
Right.
panels weren't nearly as much as they were expecting to get out of them.
Right. It's new company teething pains, I think. Right, you know.
But let's
It's-
unveil a second one already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, well, Fisker's done that. No one's received their Fisker Ocean yet, and they've already
I know,
announced and
crazy. They
shown
need to
their
stop.
the
Well,
next
it's.
thing.
I mean that's whether it's CES or whatever, these auto shows or whatever, it gets to be frustrating when it's like we're gonna unveil something and it'll be out, or we're gonna start taking orders in 3 years and start delivering in 4 years. And I'm like, well, you know, there's some people that could start a company and design from scratch and get it out in that time, and you're gonna, you know what I mean?
I do have to answer Mike about the Aptera being ugly since you highlighted it. I'm just psyched to see this tech out there. Like, I don't know if Lightyear is gonna go anywhere. Aptera is nuts. The car looks crazy.
Yeah.
It looks crazy. I don't know how that's gonna drive. Are you gonna curb it? But I'm really curious, right? And we want this stuff. We want weird stuff because maybe that'll trickle down to useful stuff in more manageable vehicles. So I'm excited. I think the Lightyear 2, maybe they just like had like, why even call it a 0 and a 2? It's just like a, you know, playing around and then the 2 kind of thing. But we want these people to succeed. We want all this tech to succeed. So it's like, sure, yeah, try. Get 49 miles of solar. Yeah, try. That's awesome.
Well, Larry
Larry
commented that for some reason Aptera will not release their government crash test data. They probably haven't done it. I don't think they're
they've done it
required
yet.
to. I don't think they're required to because
They're
it's a
not
3-wheel
required.
vehicle. It's classified as like in the motorcycle class. So
Yeah, we went to the Aptera Gamma release back in September, and they did. I thought they said that then that they would release it, and they were very clear that they're not required to release it because they're not required to test it, but they would release it.
Okay.
well, I'm sure they were going to do it anyway, just to, you know,
Yeah, I think
internally.
they need to do crash testing.
Yeah, well, you
regardless
know,
of
I mean, a lot of people expect that every time a new car comes out, that you're going to see government crash test data. That's not the case. Not all cars get government crash tested. I know most people just assume that. It depends on the volume. And some cars get crash tested like 2 years after they were introduced. So it's not like, I think a lot of people are under the assumption that a car doesn't get released to the public until it has its government crash testing data. At least in the US, could be different in Europe. I'm not sure. But in here, there's a lot of cars that hit the market that have not had published crash tested. And those are cars with four wheels. This isn't even required to because it's a motorcycle class.
Right. I think they're going to, because people want to see, it's such a radically different vehicle and different construction. It's like a composite construction. People are going to see how that works because they're putting their lives in their hands, getting into this vehicle. And it's just so radically different. But looking at time, we should move on to some news from the day. And there's some big news happened late yesterday. I believe it was late yesterday. That's when I found out about it. Anyway, so Tesla cut some prices yesterday. The Model 3 became $3,000 cheaper, I believe, and you can now pick up a rear-wheel drive small battery that's 272 miles EPA Model 3 for $43,990, which that would be, and that was eligible for the IRA tax rebate incentive. So that would be $36,490 after the rebate, which is getting into. It's not too bad, but that's like the 272 mile battery, but that's still a pretty great deal.
Great deal, and you can full charge it every day because it's LFP.
Right, that's the LFP
so
pack.
You get all of it. That's the move. Buy that.
Yeah. Or the Model Y long range is now $52,990, or $45,490 after the tax rebate. So I kind of think that's the move. Really, it went down. They chopped $3,000 off the Model 3, but they chopped $13,000 off the Model Y. That's a crazy amount of number to make it qualify for this, IRA incentive. I don't even know. I don't have a whole lot of notes of what to ask you all about. What do y'all think about this?
Everyone's ordering them. My mom called me last night. She's like, I just got one, going for it. So she's trading in her Genesis GV60 on a Model Y. So, and everyone's going for them.
Okay. Well, Pat and Liv, you guys said you were thinking about buying a Model 3. Is this now in a like a price range where you might be Tesla owners?
No, we were sort of talking about it last night briefly,
right?
Thinking about all the other implications. We don't necessarily we don't want a sedan, so we still would be like a Bolt compared to like a Model Y, but the price drop it makes it hard. And, of course, the Mach-E forum, like everybody was jumping on it immediately. It's for some people, when you're looking at it and you're thinking, choice A or choice B, and then choice B gets dropped $13,000. And considering right now, and I think it's all going to change with the IRS tax credit thing, but like the Mach-E not qualifying for the tax credit because it's like 56 or actually higher, and then the Model Y gets under that. So then not only is it cheaper, but then it gets $7,500. Like as of today, it's like that's a hard decision and hard to justify if you're worried about budget, and who isn't?
I mean, but because we're worried about budget, I'm still down with the Bolt because it's still the most affordable. We don't need another road tripper. We have a Mach-E. Right. If you're looking for your single EV, your road tripper, something that's going to be your everything, then yeah, of course, absolutely. But in our case, it's just needing like a city vehicle. I still don't feel pushed because budget is of the highest concern. So yeah, it's cheaper now, but it's still not like the cheapest. But outside, make everything more affordable. Why not? More people in EVs.
Yeah, to be fair though, I don't think the Model Y and the Bolt are real direct competitors. I think it's a much more competitor to Mach-E, ID4 Pro S, the Ioniq 5s, those. And now when you lop 13,000 off of a Model Y, it makes it a hard decision not to go in that direction. It really does. I mean, that's crazy. How pissed would you be if you just took delivery of a Model Y?
I know.
And it's 13,000 less.
Well, it's like 20,000 less if you take the tax credit too. Yeah.
I'll be making, so my payments for the next 2 years are just going to get me to where I would have been if I bought one now. I mean, but that you can't, that happens. Prices go up and down in the market. People don't complain when they buy it on the cheap like now. So you're going to get it the other way too. But this makes it a stupid easy deal, in my opinion. I mean, and I love the other EVs out there. Like I've
Right.
talked, I rave about Ioniq 5. I love Mach-E, you know, but 13 grand off a Model Y now, having it qualify for everything, getting the supercharger network for those road trips, which we know makes a difference. It's tough not to go in that direction. It really is. If you have the 55,000 or so, whatever, if you're in that price range, but
Right.
you know, we're
There's so many
talking Bolt
angles.
here. That's 50% of what you're talking about. You know, we're talking, you know, 26 to 30 full MSRP after incentives, you know, low 20s. So
Yeah,
it's not,
you are
can't compare.
No, this is a good pitch. Like you probably convinced some people here too.
Well,
No,
and
it's crazy. I mean, it's
Sure,
it's
yeah.
an awesome deal. It really is.
Alahum mentions in the comments here, I think it's the correct price. The previous was way overpriced. And I think he has a point. So they've raised the price of the Model Y over probably $10,000 over the last couple of years, right? So this is just coming back to reality, maybe, you know, a good reality, and just and tweaked enough to get under the wire for the $55,000 tax credit ceiling. But yeah, so this does a few different things. So well, this puts all the competition on their heels, basically. I'm not sure what's going on in like Hyundai headquarters right now, but I imagine there's like some strategize, or Ford or Chevrolet. Well, I mean, Chevrolet, I think it's got the good pricing for the Equinox and Blazer, so they might not be too impacted. But and those cars aren't out yet, so they have lots of time to maneuver. But the companies with cars out, man, I mean, so there's that angle, and there's also, so does this say something about demand for Tesla products? You know, has it actually softened? I mean, if it had softened, it's firming up now for a while, but at least the next couple of months, because this is like for the next 2 months, it's going to be eligible for the $7,500, and then after March, it's only half of that, right? Or maybe even, yeah, the vehicle's going to be, yeah, because it's the LFP pack. I don't even have to make them in the US.
I did check out, somebody posted on Twitter last night showing the like current in stock 3 and Y inventory, and it was climbing. And then in December, when they were doing the $7,500 discount plus some free supercharging, it just completely wiped out the inventory.
Right.
Then when that ended in January, all of a sudden you see the inventory skyrocketed again. And of course, this will clear it out. Like I'm sure it was cleared out last night by midnight, but it still doesn't seem like a significant number, because I think they were like 2,000 in current inventory nationwide. And if you think about, you know, Ford, Chevy, VW, like how many cars they have in sitting on dealer lots across the U.S. So I'm like, I don't know if the numbers are that big that it's any indication that there's softening demand. I know that, you know, Tesla's just ramping up more and more, and this is just going to drive it. I am curious, because like when they did all of those price increases, it was said we're only doing these price increases because materials, supplies, you know, everything has gotten more expensive.
Right.
Things didn't get cheap overnight. So like,
No, they did not.
what prompted this?
Yeah, I mean, that's what. Yeah, we're learning now. We can't really believe everything that every car manufacturer says, you know, at face value.
When you raise prices, you have to give an excuse. And
Right.
it was a great time for the last couple of years for people to just say, supply chain. Oh, what's
Right.
wrong? Supply chain. Why are we
Right.
raising it? Supply chain. Why can't I deliver these cars? Supply chain. You know,
No
and
chips?
there were a lot of problems with the supply chain, and it did drive prices up, but everything got lumped onto that. It was like,
Right.
a very easy excuse. So
And speaking about demand softening, Greg Kramer points out demand has softened a lot, not just for Tesla, and that's true because you know, interest rates are going up. The Fed is raising interest rates, and that slows down the economy. It slows down buying for like large ticket things, especially. It's not affecting the economy quite as much as like a lot of people have predicted. But like CEOs of certain car companies have predicted like certain doom, I think, because of the raising of the rate. But I don't think we're there yet, unless, of course, you know, Tesla's going in red to sell the cut 13,000 off of this, and it's going to be losing money on all these cars that they're selling, which is not a great, you know, business model, I guess. Can't make that.
Unless you figure a certain portion of them will buy FSD beta. or FSD, right? And that'll offset the cost. There must be some of those conversations going on.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, they have huge margins to begin with. So,
Right.
it's like they can have a big price increase and still have bigger margins than their competitors are having. So,
Yeah, I think they'll be all right.
Either way, it's now the buy. Like if you're looking at ID4, if you're looking at Mach-E, if you're looking at Ioniq 5, EV6, Model Y, there are things that those cars do better than Model Y, and many of them. But what Model Y gives you is the freedom to go anywhere with zero or close to zero hassle. You can have a CHAdeMO adapter, a CCS adapter, and access to the supercharger network. You can literally drive anywhere you want. And I don't know if you can put a price tag on that.
Right. But yeah, I think they might have to look at chopping prices too. I don't know. I think they may be forced to if ever people stop buying their cars. I mean, we'll have to.
Yeah, we're going to see automakers do everything they can to get into the tax credit situation.
Right. This is going to be a crazy because the last few years were crazy with the prices going up and being difficult to get stuff. And now things are getting crazier with this whole tax incentive, all the rules, companies trying to get their vehicles to qualify. It's an interesting time. It's kind of exciting in a way. It's kind of like I don't know what's going to happen next. I have no idea.
And it's going to be interesting too, like the ripple effects, because everybody just that was thinking about buying a car probably just went and did their order last night. But what about the used car market? Brandon Flash, who you guys probably know as well, has been tracking like used Tesla prices and noting how they're been creeping lower and lower. On the Mach-E forum, people are noticing like they sold their car last month or 2 months ago, and it's now being listed for $5,000 less than they sold it for. Right. So there's like everywhere across the board, the used car market is softening, and how is that going to play out? And especially like when you got somebody that's like, I can't afford an electric. And then now these used electrics hopefully will be dropping in price quite a bit over the next month or so. Could be interesting. Like again, just ripple effects.
Maybe you should hold off buying that Bolt. Maybe there's like a used. I mean,
oh my God,
I'm not holding off. But
just buy.
Yeah, no. It as soon as I heard the news last night, it was sort of like I wanted to call the dealer up and go like, yeah, why should I buy this when a Model 3?
I mean, yeah, that's a legit what do you call haggling strategy.
Yeah. They'll still put their PPF on, or their ceramic or whatever it is on it, and nitrogen, no matter what.
Tires. So the atmosphere is what, 80% nitrogen already? Is that what it is?
Yeah, close to 80% nitrogen. It's all of their stuff is just whatever.
I do think it's exciting though. Someone commented like, "Why would you buy the Nero EV now?" Yeah, you're right. And the price of that needed to come down always. So I think this could have a good ripple effect. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, and we got to remember, like all of the manufacturers before Tesla, before EVs, they know what price wars look like. They know what 0% financing for 60 months looks like. There's ways that people will figure out, but we also know bankruptcy has loomed large for a few of these companies as well.
Man, this is going to be interesting to see. Let's see where time is. Yeah, I don't know. Tom, do you have any more thoughts about this?
No, that's it. It's an awesome deal on the Model Y. Now you're going to see crazy. This quarter is going to have some awesome numbers for Tesla. They're going to clear out everything. I mean, I've seen so many people posting. Just ordered my Tesla, canceled my Ioniq 5 reservation. So this is a great news. It's great news for the industry. It puts pressure on the other manufacturers. Like it puts pressure on Ford to maybe, push down the Mach-E price a little bit, get it to qualify for whatever incentives it can. And, it's good. It's good for the consumer.
Right.
Tesla has the stick. They are the it company with electric vehicles. They can put the pressure on all of the other brands like no other electric vehicle company can. If Ford lowered the price of the Mach-E, I don't necessarily think Hyundai and Volkswagen would go out and say, "Oh my God, we got to react to this." But this, a $13,000 drop by Model Y. All of the companies right now are sitting in meetings saying, "Okay, how do we do? How do we not have our sales tanked this quarter. What do we do? So,
Right.
you know, it's good.
And
It
Tesla
shakes
has
things
like
up.
and Tesla has like the manufacturing capacities like to make a big huge difference. They have more, they build more electric cars than anybody else, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, some of these other OEMs build a lot more cars, but not electric ones.
Yeah.
And so if you're like building like 75% of the cars, you kind of have a big stick, like you say, in the market. Yeah.
And this price cut proves that Tesla knows they can produce the vehicles. Like if they were supply constrained, there'd be no reason to lower the price. Like if they
Right.
were selling them as fast as they can make them, they know they have the capacity now to just crank out Y. So let's do it. Let's show the market what we can do this quarter. Let's lop off 13 grand and just keep making these cars and putting them out there. So,
Right.
you know, it's good. It's good. Your competition's good. And it's good when you shake things. You know, you guys know I owned a restaurant for years. When I drove past the pizzeria that was a mile down the block and it said, you know, weekday special, $4.99 for a large pie, you know, I had to go back and sit in my office and say, okay, how am I going to deal with this? You know, what should I do? And that's what all the companies are doing now. Business is business, whether you're selling pizza or electric cars. You have to react to what your competition does. And it makes you, you know, it makes you a better company because then you think about how can I produce better? How can I service my customers better? And it's good. It shakes things up.
Right on. Okay, so I guess there's probably a lot more that's going to happen with this situation over the next couple months, and we'll keep an eye on it. But in the meantime, I wanted to show you all this little thing if I can bring it up because this is like the coolest thing from CES. And maybe you saw something at CES that is cooler, Kyle and Patrick and Liv. But hey, Patrick, I keep calling you Pat. Is that okay? Sorry.
Oh yeah, I go with anything pretty much.
Okay. Okay. So did either of you guys see this at CES?
We
Look,
heard them talk about it, but it's not anything anyone can buy.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's nothing
So
you can
then-
buy, but
Yeah.
so I don't think this will ever be a thing maybe we see on production cars or no time soon, but I thought it was pretty neat. So basically Hyundai Mobis, which is a division of the automaker, came up with these wheel modules that have everything a car needs to go, except like the energy, the battery. So there's a motor, there's brakes, some suspension, there's some steering mechanisms in there. So the result is a car that can move in many different ways, and I think it's just like awesome. I don't know, like pivot turn. Like Tom, is this the future? You're on mute. Sorry.
I can see cars doing this when they're completely autonomous. I don't think
right.
humans can deal with that. I can see people just hitting so many cars in parking lots, somebody turning the wheel the whole way, and then the car just swings wildly and whacks into another car. Like I think this is too complex for many human brains. So I think when the cars can park themselves completely dumb, yes, they'll pull up right to a spot where there's like the sensors will tell there's like a half an inch clearance on each side. The wheels will turn sideways and it'll just perfectly fit in. But no, I don't see that happening with humans.
I'm so glad you said that, Tom, because that was the first thing I thought too. Like, well, this is very unexpected. Like, we know what cars do, forward, back, how they turn, everything. But if someone near you can just suddenly spin,
Yeah.
It's like the EQS with the 10 degree of rear turning is like magic. I love it, but at the same time, it's like trying to parallel park with that thing. It's like my mind melts.
Oh, you're right.
So
Sure,
I
it
couldn't
doesn't.
imagine this. Like, what do I even do with it? But it's, you know, autonomous driving. I didn't think about that. That would be perfect.
When the car can do it themselves. And just like Patrick, I'm glad you brought up that point. Rear wheel steering is freaking awesome. You know, when I had the Hummer EV up at my house for a while and to drive, and one of the things, my house, I have like a circle, like a landing where my garage is. And right now I have a Rivian R1T and a Lightning. They're my two daily drivers. It's like making that turn is like a 6-point K turn, you know, to turn around, because I'm not used to having such big vehicles. When I had the Hummer, it was like one turn and boom, it made it, just because those rear wheels can turn. And I'm like, God, I wish these trucks had it. So I'm all in on the rear steering, but this is like, now this is what, you know, maybe Kyle his brain is wired to be able to deal with those wheels like that because he's so used to making cars perform crazy tricks. But I think the average person will end up killing people in parking lots if they were able to turn the wheels like that.
Right. I think it'd be governed by sensors, so the car would have to not allow you to.
It's just
swing.
not going to be a thing.
Right. Plus, it's probably very expensive to put all this stuff into the,
It's a
these
great
modules.
showcase.
Yeah, it's interesting. Michelin actually had something like this maybe like 7-8 years ago. I don't know if you remember those Michelin wheels with the suspension and the motor inside them.
I just worry about the weight. A lot of unsprung mass when you put everything inside your wheel.
Right.
There was an actual production car that did this back in like the 50s.
Oh yeah, it was dropped down from the rear.
There was a fifth wheel in the trunk.
Right.
And it dropped down and lifted the car up and turned.
Right. I wish I had more time to think about it. I would have brought that up. All right. So what's our time? We're getting down to it. So I just wanted a couple of other news things that we wanted to touch on really quickly. Oops. I keep hitting the wrong buttons here. So we showed
You're mumbling,
this.
Dom.
Right. Thank you. Don't mumble, Dominic. God. Right. So the Buick Electra 4, we talked about this a few weeks ago, I think, and it leaked actually in China now, so we can see what it actually looks like. And I mean, there's not a whole lot of talk about this because we don't know for sure that it's coming here, and if it does, we don't know if it's going to look like this. Probably, but I don't know. What do y'all think, real quick? Live in Pat.
I like it. I'm partial to the inflated bottom kind of vehicles like the Fisker and
the inflated what?
Inflated bottom.
Yeah, that's what it's like the smaller windows versus the chunky bottom.
Oh, okay. Like a high, what do you call it? High belt line, basically.
Yeah. No, I think it looks good, and I mean, it seems like they're not going to bring it to the U.S., which is unfortunate. But I think it looks pretty good, and way better than most Buicks I've seen lately.
Yeah, Buick Concourse. Buick's never been my brand stylistically, but yeah. I think Buick's didn't get cut like Oldsmobile and Pontiac did because it was such a big seller in China. So this is Buick. Selling a car for China, and I don't know. It'll be interesting if it comes here, but it's not as edgy as the Blazer, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it'll work for. Maybe there's a good demographic for this car here. I don't know, but let's move on real quick. I wanted to mention too that we learned this week the Ram Revolution, which we talked about last week, but actually I'll mention this real quick. So it's going to get a range extender option that was confirmed this week. And no details on it, but we'll have an all electric battery version and then a one with a range extender. I don't know, Tom, do you think that's a smart move for Ram?
Yeah, I think it's not something that I probably would go for, but as an option, I think it makes sense for a lot of buyers, and I think some of the biggest complaints you'll see now about the Lightning, for instance. I think most people love a lot about the Lightning, but what they complain about is its towing, or in really rural areas, super long distances where there isn't charging infrastructure. That that this would eliminate that. I mean, you could use it to tow whatever you wanted to, albeit a good portion of it might be on gas. So I think it's a smart move, especially for pickup trucks. I don't know how much I support it for production cars. But for pickup trucks, I think it makes sense. Don't forget Ford patented their own version of this, but it was a removable range extender, and we haven't really seen that yet. But I think you're going to see that at some point where Ford's going to say, okay, now it's an option. 2024 option is this, and it's a drop-in range extender. It looks like a toolbox that goes in the back of the Lightning. Where the big toolboxes would be, right behind the rear window in a pickup truck. Mm-hmm. So, Ford's been working on that, and it seems like Dodge is going to come out of the box with it as an option. Yeah, I think it's a good move.
Kyle, do you have a quick thought on the range extender? Does that fix the pickup truck for people who live in Colorado?
Yep.
But it makes it more expensive and more. More
price
stuff.
Is not the issue for so many people.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all about what can this thing do? Right. And honestly, as someone who tows a lot with an electric truck, at least 3 days a week, something like that, It's really freaking annoying. And it's not the range. The range is fine. It's that you can't charge the damn thing without unhooking a trailer half the time. I mean,
Right.
we have some videos showing road trips with the Rivian where I'm like, I'm leaving this thing hooked up. We are not taking this trailer off. And we piss off the entire Walmart that we're parked at. And it's like, just not cool. So until we get better charging stations adapted for towing, then I am all about the range extender lifestyle. I think it's perfect for van life. I really hope they do like this drivetrain in one of their vans, because I would love, I have a diesel Sprinter that we go van lifing with. And I hate the diesel part, but an electric van would not work for the way we use it. I mean, we just took that thing up to Prudhoe Bay, Alaska. We're going out into the middle of nowhere. That's why we have it. And, no electric application would work for it yet.
Right.
And Dom, think about this. If you have the range extender, you can then get the truck with the smallest battery option, because
True.
like let's say the Lightning, for instance, the small battery is 230 miles of range. Most people aren't going to even touch that on their daily driving, but they are when they're going long distances or when they're towing. And now you just use the range extender for those instances. And, every day you charge it and you can live with the smaller battery. And it's a $10,000 option on a Lightning. Right. How much do you think the removable range extender would be? Probably not more than 10,000. So now you actually get a much more capable truck for about the same price as getting the bigger battery version of that same truck. So makes sense.
Right on. So we're right up against the time here, but actually, Liv and Patrick, I wanted to ask you if you'd seen the Ram Revolution in Las Vegas while you were there, and what your thoughts on it were. We talked about it a little last week, but it's...
Yeah, no, it looks fantastic. But again, it's like, I just want to see what's actually going to make it into production.
Yeah. I wanted to play with some of the features, like they're removable, because it's supposed to have 2 screens. So the one's removable and then you can use it as a tablet. I'm like, how does this work? How does it integrate? Really flexible seating, and you can pull down the cabin, the dash thing, or like there's a lot that I really want to play with and try brake stuff. So it's all like, yeah, it look really pretty, but I want to mess with it.
And they were non-committal on which features would actually translate over, obviously, but it's just frustrating when it's always like, it's a prototype. And again, it feels like designers can design something great, but if it can't be put into production, then, or if it's put into production and it costs 120,000, then I don't care.
Yeah.
Right. Hey, did you guys see the Ram Charger when you were there?
Yeah.
So
it's weird. Like they had it on like a demo, and it would basically just like drive under the truck.
It's like a Roomba.
Yeah. It basically looked like a charging Roomba. And we've talked to, there's some wireless companies that are doing charging where it's like embedded or you drive over something. Mm-hmm. So I don't know why they need to have like a little robot thing. I guess it's sort of like, if you can't park well, it can.
Well, I think. Think about this in your garage. You don't want to have to, if you want to have you buy a car with inductive charging capability, you don't want to have to dig a hole in your garage and bury the new, charging plate, whatever. So this is like, just plug it in and it does all that stuff itself. It positions itself.
Well, some of them you can drive over it. So, I mean, there's disadvantages each way. Cause like this, it looked like it was a relatively big unit, and it's sort of like, for most of us, if you have it in your garage, you got to have this giant, because it was pretty good sized Roomba basically, right, at the front of the garage. That's where you have like your tool bench or your washer and dryer or whatever, or the wall. So it's like, I just, unless it can maneuver around, right. But I like the concept, right, because I never think of it as a big deal to just plug in. But for some people, I get it. It's like, that's one extra step.
Well, I'm on record as saying that I think inductive is a future thing. And in 10 years, we're going to see it everywhere. Mm-hmm. I think it's like sometime after 2030, once everything else kind of gets settled down, like battery tech and things. I think we're going to start people will be looking for competitive edges, and not having to ever get up and plug your car in. It's just like all that stuff just happens seamlessly. I mean, people will pay money for that.
Oh yeah,
I won't, but.
Because we've done like EV advocacy at events, and it is funny because I'm like, yeah, it's so simple. You just plug it in when you get home. Like, right, you got to plug it in every night, and I'm like, yeah, it takes like 2 seconds, but
Yeah.
it is a hurdle for some people.
Well, I do think the simpler we can make it, the better. Like we actually interviewed ABB about their home charger at CES, and like they're not even involving the user. Like they just want something simple so that you don't have to know about kilowatts or anything like that. You're just plugging in. So yeah, induction, you just drive over something. That's simple. Right now it's a little complex and it's a barrier for entry. Even plugging something in, because I know my mom would have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll have to. There's a lot of like people are saying in the comments that, let's see, Greg says inductive will always have less efficiency, but I don't know if I mean inductive companies will tell you different things about that. But so we should do an episode about that sometime in the not too distant future. Maybe get somebody from a company that does the best ones that we can find anyway.
Well, we need the company that does the best ones, and then we want someone really against it so that we can come with a pretty average picture in the middle.
Yeah, because right.
I can see it for public charging a lot more than for home charging, honestly, and even businesses, depots, and things like that, where the employees just pull the truck into the lot, and the thing lifts up from the ground and connects. But for home charging, it's very difficult for me to accept that added expense and loss of efficiency. And even if it's 1 or 2% less efficient, it's going to be less efficient. There's no way they're going to be completely on par with plugging in. And it's expensive, no matter how you look at it. Even driving down the cost in the future, it's still going to add, cost to the car. Right now, it's thousands of dollars. Let's say they get it down to only $500. I can't imagine it getting less than that, because there's a lot that's involved in the inductive charging systems.
I think it could be really cool for like parking garages or something, especially
Yes.
like in a shopping mall where you don't. Because I see some of those, and I'm like, if I plug in there and come back 2 hours later, am I going to be unplugged? And then for the owner, it's like, how many of those have we seen damaged? And hopefully this wouldn't be...
and vandalized. Patrick, people are going to start stealing cables on charging stations for the copper. So this would eliminate that. This would prevent that. So that's why more of a reason why I think public it's going to work. But I'm telling you, Dom, I'm against you on this for home charging. I see that maybe way out, nowhere near the 10-year time frame that you talked about. It'll be available in 10 years, but it will not be commonplace. Not for a long time.
There's a comment for someone in a wheelchair. It would be great. I agree with that. The more accessible.
Yes. Accessibility issues. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And it will be available. That will be an option because all the automakers are working on it to some degree. I used a BMW wireless inductive charging system in 2014.
Right.
So they had it up in Woodcliff Lake, New Jersey. They had it set up outside, and they had a system working then.
Right.
And they even
2015
said
with the i8. Yeah.
They said the X5 plug-in hybrid was going to offer it as an option. Like in 2016, it was supposed to be an option, and then it just never materialized.
Right.
And I remember the one thing that I had was, and I'm sure the systems have got more sophisticated now, you had to be perfect when you pulled in. And as I had to pull back out and pull in like 6 times to get it so I was better than 90% efficient. Like the first time I plugged in, it read on the screen, you're only getting like 35% of the energy. So I backed up, pulled in a little more to like 60%. Okay, back up 80%. And because the pad had to like match perfectly. And I'm sure they've improved these systems. And that might be why like the robot works, the thing that drives out, because it can have sensors to match it perfectly. But it's not just a matter of getting close, guys. For some reason, these systems, you had to be perfect or the less perfect you are, the more waste you are. So if you park crooked, you might lose 30% of your electricity. So it's just, it's definitely, I'm not as high on inductive charging, I think, as some people.
Okay. Maybe I'm just high. Sorry, I'm not.
Welcome to the Inside EVs podcast.
All right. So that's just about everything. But I did want to mention one thing because I know Kyle's super interested about this. The 2023 Mazda MX-30 is back on sale again in the U.S., California, with the same 100-mile range and
that's
no range
what
extender.
Patrick should get. They're in California.
Range extender.
You guys should get the MX-30 and prove everyone wrong.
We can't get it home from the dealer. It doesn't have the range.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it charges really quickly, so you'll be okay.
In Europe, it's getting a rotary engine range extender, but for some
Yeah.
reason, we're no news about that here yet, or maybe ever. Who knows? It's the weirdest situation. But anyway, I just thought I'd mention that.
It's got the Dorito in there. That's pretty cool.
It's got the what?
It's got the rotary looks like a Dorito chip.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay, I know what you're talking about now.
It's got the rotary
cylinder.
engine. That's kind of sweet.
Right.
Mazda, I love Mazda rotary stuff. I mean, their seals
Yeah.
go up to 70,000 miles on like RX-8s and stuff, but they're
Right.
cool.
Right. All right. So I think that brings us to the end of our show. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them on the Inside EV's forum podcast thread or on our YouTube or Twitch comment sections. If you like the show, please give us a thumbs up. And if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget you can follow our panelists on Twitter. Follow Tom Malogny at Tomolog. That's with 2 M's. Martin Lee is at EV News Daily when he's here, and when he's not here, he's still at EV News Daily on Twitter. And Kyle Connor is at It's Kyle Connor. I'm Dominic on Postdoc News at Dominic on Postdoc News and Mastodon. And Liv and Patrick, where can people find Mach-E Vlog? You can have Mach-E Vlog YouTube channel and also social media.
Yeah, both social media were at Mach-E Vlog, at Mach-E_vlog.
Okay, right on.
Tom, before we cut out, I want to add one thing.
Sure.
So I talked about my charger giveaway last week and the week before. I gave away an Emporia 48 amp charger. Chris Lano was the winner. I'm starting a new charger giveaway this week. I'm gonna just roll with this and just keep giving them away. A United Chargers Grizzle E Classic 40 amp charger. I'm going to have information on how to win that on my Twitter account this weekend. So if you want to try to win a charger, just check out my account this weekend. I'm going to post details.
Right on. So I think next week we'll try to remember to mention this at the top of the show, Tom. So make sure lots of people get to hear about that and get a chance to enter and check out your Twitter feed. All right, so click subscribe, tap that bell icon for notifications, and thank you all very much for joining us, and we'll see you all again next week. Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.
And we'll do a little